You're listening to my aimless conversation with Jeff Cosetta, and on today's episode, we have my first repeat guest, Casey Tremblay. And Casey is flanked by her own very special guest, her 2-month-old son, Mason. And it was great to catch up with Casey, and we hear a little bit of Mason too throughout the podcast. And we talk about how she's now the quote-unquote cool mom, her favorite type of M&Ms, and the proper way to add the toilet paper roll to the dispenser. She also talks about how she felt so uncool as an adolescent and how she's now a kick-ass human being as an adult. And then things take a more serious turn as Casey also mentions some of the misconceptions she had of motherhood and how postpartum depression is a real significant issue affecting many new mothers. So let's get right into it and have an aimless conversation with Casey Tremblay and Mason too. Okay, I'm recording. I should have told you recording in progress now.
It did. It asked me to continue or to leave the meeting, so I had a decision to make.
Nice. Well, I'm glad you made the right choice.
I did.
You made the right choice. So you had your first beer since giving birth.
I did. It was only one of the Leinenkugel summer shandies, which is like my favorite summertime beer. So I had half of it and it just made me really sleepy. And that was the night Mason wanted to stay up till midnight, so that was cool.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we should talk. I don't know if we want to mention that. If not, we can cut it out. But yeah, you mentioned Mason. I know we
Mason,
talked
that
last
is his
time.
name.
Yeah, we had the mystery
not like
last
it was
time.
like some secret, but I'm very like superstitious. Like I didn't, you know what I mean? I didn't want to put it out there and then God forbid something happen, or it's just very. We called him Mason like around family and stuff, but like talking on Facebook, we would just be like, oh, our baby boy, just to not be so like, oh, this is happening and everything's going to go perfectly. So, yep. Mason Joseph.
Nice. MJ.
Yeah. MJ. I know. And like Chris's brother-in-law has a brother and they call him, or a cousin, and they call him MJ. And I'm like, no, his name's going to be Mason.
Nice.
Or Mason J. Like, yeah, like you can't, I mean, I know people are going to do it, but
I love that.
I guess there's worse things people could call him. So
So yeah, you're back on the pod. We were just kind of talking about that. 2 months, 2.5 months has it been?
Almost 2.5 months, because Mason just turned 2 months on Saturday.
Yeah. So I believe you gave birth, I think, the week after we recorded that.
Yeah. It was a Monday. I went to the doctor Friday. They called me in Sunday morning, and the rest is history.
I love it. Well, I'm glad you're doing well. You had your first beer, and now you're a cheap date because you're a lightweight.
One beer, yes.
So that'll be fun. That'll be fun when Mason gets old enough where you feel comfortable. Like, let's get a babysitter. Chris and I are going to go out to dinner. You're going to have like a half glass of wine or like one beer. You'll be like, all right, I'm done. I'm ready for bed.
I'm ready. Yeah. But that's the thing. I'm ready for bed. I'm not ready to get crazy. I'm ready to go to sleep.
That's funny.
Well, I've been like putting off having a drink just because I'm like one of those worry warts. So like I literally will check every time I walk by the baby's room, if he's sleeping, I check to make sure he's breathing. Like I'm a psycho. So I'm just like, my first beer is either going to like get me super drunk, or it's going to make me fall into like this deep, deep sleep because I haven't gotten a good night's sleep in months. No, I woke up though, so that was good. But
well, I don't think it's necessarily you being like a freak or psychotic, I think, or even paranoia. I think it's just a new parent that's going to be like, I could imagine, for me, if I were to ever have a child, well, not that I could physically have a child, but if I fathered a child one day, I believe I'd be like in that room like every 10 seconds just to make sure.
Yeah, I do. So like I said, he's sleeping in his own room in the crib because he squirms and he's very like, he's crazy when he sleeps, to be honest, and he makes a lot of noise, but he's sleeping. But that keeps me up, every little noise. So he's in his room, but I have the monitor, I literally sleep with the monitor on bright, super loud, right near my face.
Yep.
And then when I walk by the room, I just listen to make sure I can hear him breathing.
Mm-hmm. But that's so awesome. I love seeing the instincts like that kick in. Like, you just want everything to do to protect Mason. I think it's also funny you mentioned not wanting to say his name and put it into the world just in case, you know, something similar happened to me. I made mention years ago, and my sister didn't know this, so I'm going to preface that with that. But my thought was if I were to ever have a son, I was going to name my son Alexander, because I'm a big proponent of having a cool nickname. And, you know, I'm Jeffrey, I go by Jeff. You know, there's a couple
Right.
different things, you know, you can do with Jeffrey, but I feel like with Alexander, you can be Alexander. Once he gets to a point where he wants to have a nickname or be called something, he has options. Alexander, Alex, Lex, Xander. You know, there's a
Yeah,
couple of like,
there's so many.
and of course I was a big fan of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and Xander was my favorite character from that show. And
So it was
Lex is
perfect.
Lex Luthor, so all of it works out. And then my sister has 2 kids, and her youngest is named Alex, so that kind of went out the window. Where if
Right.
that were to ever happen, now I have to go back to the drawing board.
Yeah,
I
and
have a
start
couple
again.
other ideas, but I don't want to get into that yet.
Well, it's funny
Uh,
too because so many people had babies like around the time. I know like there were multiple people on my Facebook and just people in general were having babies, and I'm like, not like Mason's a real common name, but I was like, watch, like I wanted a name that wasn't too common, and someone's gonna have it, but I haven't seen it yet. So
I think
not from
Mason,
like that little group
yeah,
of, you know what I mean, like people having babies around the same
not
time.
from this round of children.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, all these COVID babies. No, and Mason's
Yeah.
a unique Mason's a unique name, or a
Yeah.
unique enough name. You know, I just think it's kind of funny also how names kind of go through ebbs and flows. So like, I don't know if you'd ever be able to find like, I'm just trying to think off the top of my head, like Rudolph as a name. You know what I mean, or something that was like
Yes.
very prevalent back in the day, that it's like so old fashioned now that it's, you know how like typically things come back in a style like retro clothing, retro music,
Yes.
all that. But I think like names like Loretta, or, you
Yeah,
know,
I know one Loretta, but
right,
she's an older lady. And you just because you think like it's such an adult name, like what little baby, and be like, hi Loretta, hi little baby.
right.
Like it's just so weird. But I mean, at one point she was a baby, so so it happens. But yeah, you don't hear there's a few names you just don't hear very often. Like even Joseph, so that's Mason's middle name. I did it after my grandfather, my great grandfather. But you don't really hear Joseph anymore. Or you hear Joe, but not Joseph.
Or
So
yeah, but again, even Joseph, a good name. You can be Joe, you can be Joseph, you can be Joey.
yeah.
You know, there's a lot of nicknames, but yeah, I think of that sometimes where you're thinking of a cool name, or you want something to be unique. For me personally, because, and again, I have no dog in this fight, so to speak, to use that term, because I don't have any children. But if I did, I'd say, what's a name that's sounds good that the kid would want to be called, wouldn't be embarrassing for the kid,
And
but
it wouldn't be
also
easy to be made fun of.
that, because I'll talk to you about that in 1 second, but also having a name that isn't as common. Like, I'm not a big
Yes.
proponent of somebody that's, let's name it, you know,
John.
well,
There's
John,
just so many
or
John
the
or
other
there's just
extreme, like, you know, I don't know, like green
I say
sleeve. You know what I
right.
mean? Like, so,
Yes.
or you know,
Yeah. Or
Gwyneth
like
Paltrow.
COVID.
Yeah, Apple.
Or
You know what I
Apple.
mean?
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yep.
again, nothing against that. That's just not my personal preference.
Yeah, no, I agree. I actually liked a name, and I don't think we ever spoke about it, but Don actually stole the name I loved from a boy with his first son. I won't say it
Yeah,
on,
yeah,
it was
yeah.
from a movie. And I don't think we had ever talked about it, but I actually brought it up to Chris and he didn't like it. So I was like,
It worked out
Don
though.
won't care. Yeah, it worked out because that Mason was my first choice of everything, but I did like that as a secondary. And Chris was like, no. And I'm like, all right, that's cool. Cause I know someone with that name anyway. So,
So good,
but
so good.
so what are
Yeah.
you going to say? Your name, someone made fun of you for your name?
Oh no. When we were talking about
Oh,
making fun of it,
yeah.
I want to go back to a television show of our childhood, Full House.
Oh, I love
The
Full House.
infamous episode with Stephanie where she changes her name because the kids at school call her Step on Me,
Yeah.
and she changes her. She wants to be Dawn,
Oh my
and
God.
DAWN, and I believe Jesse and Joey and Danny all go, you know, oh well, they can't make fun of that name. They can just go Donald Duck or Don da da don da da don 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 da da don. So
But exactly, that's my point. You just proved my point.
Right. Any name can, people can goof with any name.
Yeah,
So
they
it's
really
really,
can.
it's really like, it's a childish thing. Like kids are going to be kids, not that
Yeah, you
that's
can make fun of someone for anything, so it's gonna
right.
happen.
And I think there's different levels of, I don't want to say bullying or teasing. I think like teasing in a good natured way where everybody's having a laugh is great.
Yeah.
Deliberately picking on a child for something that you want to make them appear weaker or yourself stronger, I think is a little bit different,
Oh, 100%.
not that
100%.
not that I want to go down
I
that
was
road.
bullied in school and made fun of, so I completely can relate to that. I wasn't always as cool as I am now.
Well, you are super cool. You're so cool.
I'm the cool mom.
You are the cool mom. I think I put that on your Facebook with
You did.
the scene from, what is it?
Mean
Mean
Girls.
Girls,
I'm the
where
cool
I'm the
mom.
cool mom. But no, I think you're so cool that you are the first repeat guest on the podcast. Not that I've had a whole bunch of guests, but I think I've had two other guests
Yay.
after you. So you're guest number 1 and guest number 4,
Oh, I
technically.
like it.
But no, I've wanted
And
to
I'm
get you
really
back.
not that interesting, so.
But but you say that. But the fact that you and I can have this back and forth, it's not me just
asking
questions. You
It's a
can carry
dialogue.
on a conversation. You can bring up certain
Definitely.
points. You can do all these other things. Like, again, we have a mutual friend that we talked about on the last podcast, Rich Marini. Love him to
Yes.
death. Great dude. Interviewing him is like trying to pull teeth.
I can only imagine.
He is so monosyllabic and
Yes.
so like short with his answering. He's all he answers every question closed, I guess is the best way to say it. Like I ask open-ended questions, or I try
Right,
to.
so you can elaborate
And exactly, and he doesn't do that. So I'll be like, "Oh, that must have been fun, huh?" And he'd be like, "Yep."
Yeah. Yep. He was the same way when I worked with him like 20 years ago
But
or
the thing is,
15 years ago.
he wants to keep being on the podcast, and I have to keep telling him, I'm like, dude, then you're
like,
gonna have to talk.
Liven it up. You gotta liven it up a little, Rich.
Exactly. It's a 2-person, this is an interview thing. This podcast is me asking questions or trying to generate a conversation, and then you giving interesting factoids or enhancing that conversation with your answers, which then I can branch off on and start trying to be. I try to be entertaining. I don't know how entertaining it is, but
I'm entertained, and that's all that matters.
Well, that's the thing. If we're having fun, then the listeners have fun.
Right.
So I should point out for the listeners too, I'm also going to be finagling with the podcast. I talked to you a little offline about the song choices. I might be doing a different intro as well. But in that same vein, I'm also thinking of doing full-length video podcasts from here on out, because we're already recording the video.
Right.
And then I just convert it to an audio format and publish the audio. And I take the video and I then break it down to try to make like a 5-minute, what I like to call a sizzle reel, or like a trailer of the podcast to kind of like entice people to listen to it. But from the podcast hosting solution I use, you can do video podcasts. So all I'd really have to do instead of converting everything to an audio is just put an intro and an outro in here, cut up take the video, edit it, break it in half, put a break in the middle with a theme song and the ads, and then put an intro and an outro and the graphics, and then just publish that, rather than do that plus do all the audio stuff to it.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good idea, because I mean, come on, who wouldn't want to look at our faces for as long as we talk? Like, come on.
For you, nobody. Everybody would want to see your face. For me, Mongoloid Jeff, as we like to call him.
Oh my God, stop. Our faces are the coolest.
Self-deprecating humor. Self-deprecating. Yeah, so to the listeners, we're not going to be publishing a video for this one. Just because, for personal reasons, it is about 87 degrees in my apartment right now.
It's hot.
And I get the
didn't
AC
shower
on
today.
Right. And I have this this weird, it's like a sleeveless, yet a hooded.
Oh, so it's like, if it starts raining right now in the hot weather, you'd be fine.
Well, I do have a hole in my ceiling. No, that's a joke. That's a joke. That happened once, though. That did happen once.
Oh my God, that's awful.
A few years ago. So I live in a 2-bedroom apartment. So I have my bedroom, and then the second bedroom I converted into like an office I don't want to say junk room, but like a lot of the stuff that I'm not going to
Like
take
a
out, like
storage room
storage room, my
almost.
old comic books,
That was Mason's room. We have 3 bedrooms, but we have no storage space. So Mason's room before it was his room was just like storage. So
yeah.
then we had to kind of disperse it everywhere else.
Well,
So I can relate.
and that makes perfect sense. Like, you have the room, you might as well use it. So I was using it as kind of like I had 2 bookshelves with some of my reading material, some of the biographies I like to read. Then I'd have, my comic books and stuff in my boxes, some other collectible stuff that I just don't have room for and don't want to unpack per se. And then I have my desktop computer in there and a couple other things. Well, one night I'm laying in bed. It's like huge thunderstorm. And all of a sudden it sounds like I hear like a waterfall in the other room.
Oh
Because
boy.
the roofs were so old on these buildings, it actually got underneath the tiles. And then because I'm on the 2nd floor, it was leaking into my dome light. I have like a light with a
Oh,
dome
yep.
on it, and it was just dripping and spraying everywhere. So I had to call at like 11:30 at night. I had to call the operations guys, the guys that take care of the building, and they came with a drill and they drilled a hole in my ceiling. So because it was on a slant, and they put a giant Tupperware, like a
Underneath
plastic
like a tub.
container to catch it all. And then I had to drain it the next day. And that hole is still in that spare room. They fixed the
Oh
roof and
no.
everything. They like redid the
Yeah.
roofs of the entire apartment complex. So it's not going to happen again. But it was just like, luckily nothing got damaged, like a couple of comic books and stuff,
Oh,
but
I was gonna ask you because you had
nothing
said
old school. My computer was safe and it was like in the middle of
nothing.
the room. So I was good. But yeah, it was funny. I turned the light on and I like the dome hadn't filled up with water. Once I realized what was happening, it's like dead of night. I'm like, oh shit, I shut the light off because I don't want anything shorting. And I had to
Yeah, seriously.
unscrew the dome, let it leak into like a big plastic bin that I had. And then I was just like, I just let it sit there. I called, like I said, I called the building guys and why can't I think of the term what they do? But like, maintenance
Like maintenance,
guys.
maintenance.
Aha, maintenance. But yeah, so it was just one of those random things. So now every time I get a little apprehensive, every time it rains really, really hard, I'm like, I go
Yeah,
and I
you was like, I'm
double
just gonna
check.
wear my hood in there
Yeah, so now I have my hood and it's good. But yeah,
and you're good.
it's really, really warm. Plus, I want to show off my guns.
Your
I've
guns.
been going
Welcome
back
to
to
the
the
gun
gym,
show.
so
I know, I saw that you are
I'm trying to build it back up.
buff.
Luckily, like I said, I'm not going to show my flabby arms on.
Oh my god, so
Uh,
my arms are gonna be jacked because this kid weighs like almost 13 pounds already.
he
So
likes to eat.
he's an eater
Yeah.
for sure.
So now we
So
started talking about. Sorry, I'm just admiring myself.
yeah, no, definitely. I got a little muscle.
You got the muscles though. You got the mom muscles.
Well, yeah, I got mom muscles for
You know what I
sure.
like? That's so for sure. I call that mom muscles.
I got some
You
on
got
both
some
arms.
some M&Ms.
Yes.
Yeah, I
I
love
love
it. So
M&Ms.
well, so okay, so let's talk about M&Ms. What's the? Are you a classics gal or do you go peanut M&Ms?
So I love the classic M&Ms.
Yeah.
I love the mini classic M&Ms. I don't
Okay.
know why. The mini ones are my favorite, but I like
You could fit more in your mouth.
so many. Yeah, I could just take like, well, I remember it's so weird. Like I'm a weird person. So when I worked at Target, I was like 17 years old. I'm 34 now. So when I worked there, Shrek, I forget which one. So this was like 2004. I forget which Shrek had just come out. I might have been the first one, but they had the mini M&Ms and they were like green. They were the Shrek color. And I would buy a whole bag of those on my break at Target, and I would eat them and whatever. But that always just like stuck with me. And then when they came, I don't know if they took the minis away. I hadn't had them in a while. So then when they came back, I was like, I wish I could find the Shrek ones. But so those are my favorite, but I like the peanut butter ones too.
Okay, I was
The
going to say
peanut butter
curveball.
M&Ms.
I like the classics are great, but I also like the crispy ones. The
Oh yes. Oh my God. With the like, it's like a Rice Krispie treat inside. Not
yeah,
Rice Krispie treat, a Rice
but it's
Krispie inside.
yeah. And then
Yes.
the other one I like are the pretzel ones. The pretzel ones are super good
Yes,
too.
those are good too. The crispy ones they took away for a while.
Did
And
they?
then I think so. And then they came back and I don't like them as much. I think they taste different than when they originally came out, but they're good. Those are
Now,
good.
speaking of M&Ms, and you mentioned the Shrek, the green ones.
Yes.
Do you believe the rumors or I don't even know what the how to even phrase it, like Mason knows what I'm talking about. He knows
Yeah,
what I'm talking
he agrees with you.
Yeah, like they say like the green M&Ms are like an aphrodisiac or whatever that like
Really?
yeah, you never heard that?
No, but I remember seeing a Jennifer Lopez movie where she would only eat the brown ones because there was no artificial coloring in them.
Oh, well, there you go. I did not know that, but I guess
I
I
don't
don't
know if that's like real. I just remember seeing that.
I don't want to say it's an old wives' tale. I forget what the term like the
Well, these were
having.
like an ugly green color though, because they were like green speckle, I
Oh,
guess, or
okay, so
green like.
they're not the standard green
They
M&M.
weren't standard
Oh,
green. They were like swampy green for
yeah,
sure.
I believe the I don't want to call it the metaphor. That's not what I want. I'm having such a brain fart today. But like I guess like
I'm
the old wives' tale or whatever, the rumor, whatever you want
yeah.
to call it, the stigma is that it's not the stigma. That makes no sense. But the green ones are supposed to be an aphrodisiac and make people for lack of a better term randy. So it's like,
Really?
yeah, it's like, oh, have some
I'm
green
gonna
M&Ms.
try, I'm gonna try that one day.
Well, if
It's like
Chris
here,
ever if do it, and then if Chris listens to this and has the best night ever, he can
right?
be like,
He can
"Thanks, Jeff.
thank you, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff. You just hooked
Yes.
me up, bro."
Right?
So I love it. I love it.
Now I want some M&Ms.
Well, there you go. Well, that's what you're gonna get for a payment option for doing the podcast. I'm gonna mail you
Awesome.
some M&Ms. We're gonna have a blast with it. But moving along. Speaking of green, I believe green is one of the colors, the primary colors of a video game system known as Xbox.
I
And
know.
I saw when you were setting up, your Xbox was buried
Oh, it's
under a
here. It
pile of
is.
clothes.
I have some clothes on it right now, but I haven't played Call of Duty since, which I know this is more for like the Free Your Geek podcast, but it's been since October, probably late October, because they were still doing the scare boxes for Halloween. So I don't know, I got so tired in my pregnancy that when I got home, I would like, eat, do dishes, take a shower, like unwind, and I would like had no energy. And everyone's like, play now before you can't play now. And I couldn't. So when I started, so after I gave birth was crazy. That's like a whole nother story for a whole nother time. And like the first like 5 to 6 weeks was really hard. I had a really hard time, just emotionally, and the lack of sleep didn't help. So when I finally was like, all right, I'm getting back into like feeling better, like, I can shower, I have more time to like shower, and I'm learning how to function with a little human. I was like, oh, I want to get back into Xbox. So I turned it on. It took about 2 days to update because I haven't touched it since October. But I haven't played yet. But half the battle, I turned it on. So I just gotta figure it out when I'm gonna jump back in.
Well, here's a time saver for you. You mentioned that when you were pregnant and you wanted to play, you had to, sleep, and you had to like get home from work, do the dishes, eat, take a shower. Little fun time saving tip for you: just bring the dishes with you in the shower. Two birds,
Oh,
one stone.
perfect. Oh, actually, I have a dishwasher.
Oh, well, then how
Yeah,
difficult is that?
I was just like putting them in the dishwasher was a lot when I was like, so
But
big. And
isn't that funny though? That's just not to change subjects entirely, but to have like something like right there that does all the work for you. It's just the effort of putting the dishes in the dishwasher. And
yeah,
that
because
seems
you
like,
rinse them off first, and then like
but even that
you gotta
seems like a
set it up.
monumental task. Like
Yeah,
I literally sometimes leave my trash, like I take the trash in my trash bin, I tie it up, and I'm like, it'll take me about 40 seconds to walk it downstairs and put it in the trash receptacle. Cause we don't have in Somerset where I live, any residential has to buy town bags to throw their
yeah.
trash in.
Fall
But
River did when I lived there too, and
right,
yeah.
but in my apartment complex, they have their own. They do it. They have their own dumpster that they work with the city.
Oh,
So
nice.
we all basically bring our trash from our inside trash can to an outside trash can,
Outside trash
and
can,
then they pick it
yes.
up and they bring it all into the dumpster for us. But
Nice.
just to walk like 15 feet downstairs,
Yeah, why even? That's
it messes with me so much. Where it's like,
yes.
am I really that lazy? Am I really that
I
lazy?
am.
It's so
I
weird.
am.
I actually mentioned this to another friend of mine because I used to live with her sister back in the day when I had a roommate back when I worked retail. And she would use the toilet paper and finish a roll of toilet paper, get a new roll, but instead of putting it on the dispenser, she would put it
Just
on top of the dispenser.
just open the dispenser.
So you made the effort to go get it
Get it. So
and
just
put it on top.
finish
It's going to
it.
take you an extra 5 seconds to put it on. Now,
mine is so easy. You just lift it up and it just slides on and off and then you close it. So there's no excuse.
There you go.
No excuse.
Well,
and I go the extra mile and I leave 2 rolls of toilet paper on the back of the toilet, because if I'm peeing like in the middle of the night, I don't want to like open my little closet, and I'm prepared.
Right. Well, until Mason starts walking and comprehending, and you can just say, hey, honey, go get mommy an extra roll of toilet paper. Then you don't have to worry about it.
Exactly.
So now let me ask you a question then.
Sure.
When it comes to toilet paper, do you do fold in front or
you have to fold in front?
So the end has to hang over. It shouldn't be hanging in the back.
Yeah, I don't.
So you don't want to pull from behind as I'm.
No, I want to pull from the
as
I want to pull from the front.
Yeah, as I'm pantomiming. Is that the word I want? Or miming me?
I see what you're doing, right?
Yeah, you can see what I'm doing.
I can see it.
It has to come from the front.
Yes.
Not the back.
The front. Yes, exactly. The first hand motion, not the second one.
Nobody else can see that, which is great. Another reason I'm glad to have you on the show again, even though you're only the first repeat guest and you're only guest number 4, I do have a couple other people lined up, fingers crossed, that I don't want to spoil it yet, just in case they cancel. And I've been trying to get you on for a while, and I know obviously you're dealing with the mom stuff. And speaking of mom stuff, you have a condition that I want to talk about.
Okay.
And you call it mom brain.
It's so bad. But in all fairness, I mean, I was like this before I got pregnant, so it's just like multiplied now.
So to peel the curtain back a little bit,
yeah,
we were supposed to record last week.
Oh my goodness, yes.
And then I think last week wasn't good, so you said anytime after Sunday. So I hit you up. I said, "How about Monday?"
And I was like, "Yes, yeah, so absolutely. Excited! Let's do it."
And then I sent you a text on Monday morning, just to be like, "Hey, just confirming." And you said, "Sure, I'll let you know what time when I get home."
Oh my God.
I'm sitting here, and I feel like the stereotype, and I don't want to demean anybody that does this, but the old stereotypical person that's like in love with somebody, that has a crush on somebody, that's patiently waiting by the phone. I was there the whole time, like checking my social media. When's she gonna hit me back?
Oh my God.
When's she gonna respond? And then by like 7 o'clock, I was like, you know what?
So tonight's not going to work.
Yeah, I was like, hey, are we still? I don't think it's going to happen. So I sent you a message. I didn't hear anything back, and I figured you had baby stuff. And then
honestly, I don't remember. This is exactly what I mean. So last Monday, so my future sister-in-law was up last week. So I was like, oh, this is a good time, but things just got crazy and I didn't want to like pawn the baby off, not pawn it off, but we just had like stuff going on. So I was like, oh, well, I'll reschedule for next week when I'm home by myself. But then I honestly, what is it? Today's Wednesday. I honestly can't remember what happened Monday where I like couldn't do it.
Well, and again, I'm not mad, but you were so apologetic.
I felt so, because your time is valuable, and you could have had like someone else on, or like I could have just like not spaced it out like I did.
No, please. Like, obviously, like as far as the importance goes, if I had to do a ranking, it would be Mason, Chris, podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
And nobody.
No, I've been wanting to do it for so long. As soon as I saw like your name come up, I was like, OMG.
Well, it's funny because I wasn't as bad, because usually getting back into, post-COVID, I've gotten both of my vaccines. So now I'm,
nice.
I gained like 4 pounds, which isn't as bad as a lot of other people, but working from home the last 14 months, not being able to go to the gym until I was vaccinated, all this other stuff. I just decided, okay, May 1st, I was, 2 weeks post second shot. So I was at that point where I said, okay, it's great. I can go back to the gym as of May 1st. So I've been hitting the gym pretty hard all of May so far.
Nice.
And so I was like,
that's awesome.
Sitting there, and I said, Casey's not getting back to me. I said, I have leg day tomorrow. I said, I'd rather get leg day done tonight. That way, if I have
helped you out.
Yeah, no, you did.
I helped you out.
I filled the time with something else. So instead of doing
Awesome.
leg
Okay,
day,
so now I don't feel as bad. I still
yeah,
feel bad, but not as bad.
but you gave me a recovery day on Tuesday. So instead of taking my recovery day or
Oh,
my
what?
rest day
Right.
on Monday, I took care of Monday, and then Tuesday I had, while my legs were like jelly, it gave me an extra day to recover. Now I
Nice.
can go, and today I did arms. So it worked out well, and that's okay.
See?
But yeah,
Nice.
that's one of the issues I have. So we've mentioned it ad nauseum that I have both, my aimless conversation, this new podcast that we're doing, and then Free Your Geek. And I'm
Yes.
at the point where Free Your Geek is easier to do because it's just me and KB. Typically, it's usually the
Yeah.
same co-host. I just, hey, you
And
want to
there's
talk
just
about
so
this?
much to exactly. There's so much to talk about.
Let's talk about The Walking Dead. Let's talk about this Marvel movie. Let's talk about this video
Right.
game,
Video game. Yes.
whatever. And,
There's
and
so
it's
much.
cool in that sense, or a television show, whatever, anything pop culture in that geek realm. And KB is just working around his schedule for this
Yeah.
one where
I
I
know. I
want to.
want to do that one with you guys
Oh,
too.
you're
Side
you're
note.
gonna be on it too.
Okay.
Listen, we get all the time in the world. Like now, if
Yes.
COVID has taught us anything, it's that with this technology, it's so easy now. Like
Yeah.
we're doing everything via Zoom, and we're just recording video and
Yeah.
audio, and it makes it really easy to podcast now.
Yeah.
But with
Definitely.
For Your Geek, I have like a mixer. I have all this other stuff that comes into play,
Right.
which the sound quality is way better. Don't get me wrong, but it's fun because you can have multiple people on a line at that time.
Yeah.
It's easy. Or if I have people in studio, hence my apartment, which, by the way, I want to mention, there's a independent professional wrestler by the name of Colt Cabana, and he has a podcast called The Art of Wrestling. And I haven't listened to it in a while, but he used to start the podcast off like doing the introduction. Hey, I'm Colt Cabana, and I'm live in the studio apartment. And now, and he would do that whole joke the entire time. And I
That's
so
good.
wanted to steal that, but like I can't do that. But that's
That's
essentially
good.
my
That's a good
studio
one.
is in my apartment. So
Right.
once Mason gets an age where he's a little bit more self-sufficient, you can bring a babysitter, and you want to come in studio to do an
Yes.
interview, we can
Yes.
certainly
Definitely.
do that too. I'd get, because
Definitely.
we've, again, even though we're seeing each other on video, you and I have never been
Never.
in person with each other.
No, it's crazy. But now
I
I have all kinds of time this summer, so we'll have to.
Well,
I mean, we'll have to
you
bring
say
Mason for
that.
a walk.
Yeah, I mean, I have plenty of vacation time with my job, so I can always
Yeah,
take
definitely.
time off, and we can go and get some steps in.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think that's so funny because I say that like that you and I haven't really met in person. We've done a couple of phone. I believe you mentioned it last time. You drunk FaceTimed me.
I did. Or I hit it by accident and I was like, oh, let's just do it. Like, let's just let it go.
Yeah, right. Like go with the flow.
I'll just see if he answers. Yeah,
But
okay.
I think like that was the first time you and I actually interacted live in person.
Yes.
Because before that, and I don't know if it was
Was
before or after, we were doing Snapchat to each other,
Yep.
and we
I
were
don't
doing
remember if it was
filters.
before.
I can't remember,
Yes.
but
Mine, yes. I think, yeah.
so
I don't remember if it was
we
before or
knew what each
after,
other
but
looked like,
yeah.
but we still have yet to meet in person, and we've been friends now for like,
Years.
yeah, and it's
It's
super
been
weird,
years. It
and
is
it's
weird.
like
But
it's
I have a few internet friends that are really close. Actually, two of them sent me gifts for Mason that I've never met in person.
oh, that's
So
awesome.
yeah, I guess I'm just like such a cool person. Like, so
Wow,
imagine meeting
wow,
me in person. Like,
wow.
I'm so,
Jeez.
I'm just, I'm just kidding. But no, it
I
is
know.
crazy.
Well, I'd invite you into the studio, that sounds salacious, and I don't mean it to sound like that, but you could come to my apartment and come do a live interview. But with that type of ego, I don't know if your head could fit through the door.
I know, right?
I'm so cool. I'm Casey Tremblay.
I'm
Look how
so
cool I am.
cool. I'm so
Wow.
cool. I was so uncool for a long time that I do like to brag now.
I don't think I don't think you were ever uncool. I think you just
I was
had.
pretty uncool.
But okay, so let's talk about that. Let's get into some philosophical chat now, man. Let's light up.
Oh,
Let's spark up a doobie and
all
get
right.
deep. Even though
Let's do it.
I don't have anything on me,
Yeah,
but
I don't either.
let's just go deep. Let's
All right.
what do you think if we really want to talk about what is cool and uncool? Like you say that you are uncool. What is that definition? Do you think it was that you were really uncool, or do you just think it was the way you felt about yourself at that point in time in your life? Like, what makes a person uncool?
I think it was both, but I definitely think it was like the way I dressed, the way I, didn't know how to fully straighten my hair, like just little things that just girls my age knew how to do or people knew how to do and they were cool. And I just was super uncool.
But
But
don't
yeah,
you?
I guess more so just like, um, well, the people I hung out with who I loved, but other people didn't, which I didn't care about, which is why I kept hanging out with them. But more so, yeah, I guess just like my clothes, the music you listen to. Like I said, my hair was a mess.
But
My
when it,
skin, my face, the way I looked
but
was,
those are
I played a
all
huge part.
those are all exterior aesthetic things. Isn't
Yeah.
feeling cool more of a perspective in the way
Oh,
that
a
you
hundred,
feel about yourself?
definitely. But so this was a while ago. I was in like eighth grade, just going into high school. So it was very much like it just mattered what other people like thought. You know what I mean? Now I'm now it's so much different. Like as you get older, you learn that it's not so much about like the physical things. But so in eighth grade, my face was really bad. Like I had really bad acne, um, and didn't really, I would wash my face and stuff and try different things and nothing worked. And they used to call me pizza face. So yeah, I was a little uncool, but it was the physical, because the physical is what you see first, and that's what people would judge you on. And then, I went to middle school and high school in a very small town. So
But I still think, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, IMHO, it's all perspective though, because
it
it's
is. Yeah.
you can look back at yourself, and even now though, that's what kind of like, I don't want to say it hurts me, but like to hear you say that, like going
Right.
back even now thinking you were uncool back then, just means you didn't think a lot of yourself back then, but you still don't think of
Yeah.
a lot of yourself back then
Then now.
now.
No,
Eh,
that, yeah, no, I know exactly. I know what you're saying now. So, and now that you say that out loud, you're totally correct. So if I could go back in time, like if I could go back and tell myself now or redo it, I would totally do it different. I wouldn't care what people thought, and I would be the coolest. You know what I mean? But just that's how I felt at the time, I guess. And I look back now, and yeah, I was pretty down on myself, but
but you're not alone in that. I think that's a very common thing. Like, and I
oh yeah,
don't get me wrong.
definitely.
I'm not standing on a soapbox here and being like, oh, that's what you should. I was the same way. I was very self conscious,
Yeah.
and I'm still self deprecating as we talk. I made the mongoloid face comment a little while ago,
Exactly.
but I do it more from a humorous standpoint for me, because now I'm comfortable enough in my own skin and I'm happy,
Right.
like in the sense. But back then, I was in the same boat as everyone else. And I think that's something very important, that not that a lot of young people listen to this podcast right now, or maybe they do, I don't know. But if I were to say anything, it's like everybody's got their own stuff. Everybody's going through their own shit. And not
Yes.
everybody realizes that. I go back, I said a little earlier in the podcast, Buffy the Vampire Slayer was one of my favorite television shows. There's an episode in season 3 where Buffy gets the ability to read people's minds and hear their thoughts. And it was an episode that was taken off the air for a little bit because it has to deal with somebody saying that by this day tomorrow you're all going to be dead, and it was like a school shooting type thing, and it was right
Hmm.
around the time of, I believe, Sandy Hook. So they like took it
Oh,
out, they
yep.
took it out of rotation, they played it a little bit later. Long story short, and spoiler alert if you haven't seen that show or you don't want to be spoiled with it, fast forward about 30 seconds here. But basically what she comes to find out is that the kid with the gun wasn't planning on killing everybody else. He was planning on killing himself because he's down on himself. And she kind of relates that basically from having that power of being able to read people's minds. She kind of realizes that everybody's got their own baggage. Nobody's paying attention to you or cares about you
Right.
because they're too busy dealing with their own insecurities and own feelings and self-worth and whatnot. So it's, and I have another friend of mine, kind of unrelated, and I might have mentioned this to you before, or I might have mentioned it on another podcast. But he is very, um, I don't know what the psychological term is, but he is like kind of like when you trip and you feel like everybody's looking at you. You know, like,
Yes.
oh, everybody saw that. I'm such an embarrassment. He has
Yes.
that problem with the gym. He'll be like, oh, I want to go on the treadmill, but the only treadmill available is near the really cute girl. And I don't want to, like, if I happen to look her
Look
way,
stupid. Right.
I don't want her to think that I'm like staring at her or being creepy.
Yeah.
And my answer to him was, well, as long as you're not deliberately doing that, as long as you're not staring, like I run on the treadmill, I look to the left and to the right.
Right.
Sometimes there's, but other people that are doing their own workouts or doing their own thing, they're much more concerned. They're not, I mean, and it might be different for a female. So I don't want to like overspeak or speak out of turn here, because I know that females have to deal with a lot more when it comes to guys than vice versa, or, you know, like creepy dudes or whatnot. But to me, like if I'm in the gym working out, I'm not noticing other people looking at me. I'm there to
Right. Because you're
concentrate on
so
my workout,
focused. Yes.
whatever. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think if it's like a, you know, you're in a crowded area or, you know, dimly lit area, parking lot, all that other stuff, it's a total different scenario for a female than when she's in the gym. I mean, she's probably still got some creepy dudes. Don't get me
Right.
wrong. It happens all over the place, but I just feel like it's one of those things where if he's so overly concerned, he's more concerned about what other people are
Yeah.
thinking of him than he's worried about himself. And
Yes.
you
And
know,
I did that for a long time because that's how it was. You know what I mean? Like growing up all through high school, it was like that. And then I'd say like when I was like 2021, I just like I was like, I always joke and say it was like the ugly duck syndrome. And I don't know, when I was like 2021, I don't know what I did. I don't know if I like had finally hit puberty or felt like my face cleared up. Like I just felt so much better about myself um, physically, but it made me feel better, you know, from the inside. So like if you looked at my Facebook and you saw like my profile picture and like, you know, people compliment you and so many people like it and stuff. And yeah, that's awesome. That's how I feel now. Like I'm happy and confident and I'm happy with myself and I think I'm cool. You know, I know I'm cool. But just wasn't always like that. So yeah, I mean it sucks, but like I said, if I could go back and tell my younger self now, like be this confident then, I would go back and do it in a heartbeat. But it's sad because even not to like go into a whole crazy subject, but even watching 13 Reasons Why on Netflix, I'm not sure if you've seen it.
I
That
have
hit me
not.
like it's sad and it hit me really hard. And I know a lot of kids, like I see I'm in like a fan group on Facebook and I just read like the things people write, and there's so many kids and people that feel like that. And I'm just like, it's just crazy. Um, and it just makes me sad. But
Well, I a couple of points to what some of the things you just mentioned. First of all, I'm very happy that you turned into a swan. I thought you were always a
thank
swan.
you.
I would never think you were an ugly duckling. I'd
I'll show you some pictures. We'll
no,
change.
I'm still gonna be like that right there with like the pizza face, quote unquote. Still a
Yes.
swan, still a
Thank
gorgeous little
you.
swan.
Oh, you're so
Don't
sweet.
ever. But that's the kick I'm on now. Personally, for me, is like trying to be more positive and help, like be a light in people's life. I think is
Yes.
very important. I mentioned last episode, which was a couple weeks ago now. I don't know if you listened to it. If you didn't, no pressure. But my one of my longer tenured friends, Sherry, who I used to work with at Olympia Sports, like in the early 2000s, uh, we were talking about that, and it's a couple different points. Like we both were, you and I both worked retail as well. You know, you could be
Hmm.
having the best day ever, and you get that one, like, and I think I said it the exact same way. You get that one a-hole customer that comes in and like, even though they're a jerk to you, that ruins your entire day.
Yes.
I try to do the opposite of that now and try to, like, anytime I go to somebody where it's like a monotonous, you know, day-to-day job where they see a ton of people, I try to do something silly or stupid or positive just to get them to
Right.
smile or laugh or be like, you know, this dude's friggin' absurd, like, and
I
just like
love it. That's what we
incredulous,
love
like,
about you, Jeff.
well, thank you. And again, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back and say that, but I think to what we were just talking about with 13 Reasons Why and all these kids, even though I haven't seen the series, I think it's a catch 22. I think the newer generations coming up have more people that have kind of been through that can be mentors or just like examples of, you know, and again, not to harp on the whole, homosexuality or gay and lesbian type thing where it gets better. But for people to have already gone through those plights and had to
Yeah.
deal with all that bullshit that they had to go through for, like, they're a human being, and why should they be treated different for being how they were born? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, but
Yes.
they've been through that darkness. They came out light at the end of the tunnel. Like, I'm here as an example saying, you can do it
Yes.
too. But I also think with the advent of social media, the bullying or the it's just gotten so
So bad.
bad because
So bad.
it's a disconnect. I
Yes.
wouldn't say, and I would never say that now, but even back when I was younger and I was, going through puberty and I was a teenager, I thought like I knew everything, and I'd say so much shit that if I said like the same thing like you said, the older version of me going back would have smacked the old version of me upside the head and
Yes.
being like, learn, be a better human
Yes.
being. But I think a
Yes.
lot of it is just trying to come into your own too. So I feel bad, but at the same time, it's good to impart knowledge. But with the advent of social media, I think there'd still be things that I would never say, even at my most brazen, where when I was the biggest asshole in my, 13, 14-year-old self, where I would never say that to a person's face. But you take
Right.
that element away from it. Now I'm behind the safety of a computer
Yes.
to a stranger that I don't know.
And you have no, well, I'm sure you have an idea, but people have no idea the things that I see, even me personally, that I see people say on social media. The thing is these, for lack of better words, I was going to say idiots, but these people you can just go on social media and say whatever you want, and all their little followers, all their little friends just believe it. So it's, and I didn't even have, I don't even think MySpace was a thing until I was almost like a senior in high school. I think it was like the end of my senior year. So luckily I got through school without social media. But it's just, it's so, you have 9-year-olds that have Facebooks now. It's so, and you can just say whatever you want on, I mean, to a point, but you can just, people just say whatever they want and people believe it. And it's just,
It's
it's
very
crazy.
it's very tough because it's also like, there was, our parents when they taught us, and I find we talk about growing up as into adulthood, from like childhood to through puberty, through adolescence to adulthood. And we always, you and I both learned at a young age that if you don't have anything nice to say, then don't say anything
Yes.
at all. But I also think that we lose some of that, what's the word I want to, but we lose some of that capability for understanding in adulthood, because all you have to do is go, and again, not that I want to get political, but you go through a couple of different things, whether you're conservative or liberal or whatever, and you just watch like these news outlets, or somebody will post something on Facebook that has even the slightest political, or might not even have any political agenda, and people bring it up, and then all of a sudden it starts a fight.
It's a
And
war.
it goes, to me, it's like, remember when you told us as kids, if you don't have anything nice to say, like, why, who are
Keep
you to
scrolling.
judge somebody else from somebody
Yes.
else's
There,
opinion? We're brazen. It
I know
gives us,
people that, people will like literally stop talking to friends, to family members, because they just don't agree. And if every, you know what I mean? It's just, it's insane. It's like, if you don't agree, just don't, you don't have to agree on it. And
I,
that's fine.
it's funny because it's like, as an adult now, I see that, and I never hope to revert, and I'm not going to give specific examples, but I see it in my family and my older, relatives and whatnot. Some of the stuff they say, I have some that are conservative people, I have some that are liberal people, and just the on both sides, to me, where it's just like they have to prove their point.
Yes.
And it, to me, it's like, I don't care what you believe in. I don't care what religion you are, what sexuality you are, what political side you fall under. It's just, it all boils down to the golden rule for me. And it's like, how do you treat people? How do you treat me? How do you treat other people?
Exactly.
Do you do anything that offends me? Then you don't. Hey, guess what? I'm pretty easygoing. You don't do anything that offends me, we're cool. It's that simple. I have no
Yeah.
problem. It's like, you live your best life, do whatever you need to do to be happy. Don't hurt anybody else. And that's it. Live your
I
best
agree.
life.
People just live off drama, which is why, like, if you looked at my Facebook, you would never. There was one time I had to defend one of my friends, so I went hard on someone, and I don't normally do that. And since then, certain people have like we've seen posts and everything. And I'm like, I'm not going to go back and forth with you, because how old are we? And if that's what you want to look back on, you want to look back on pictures of your children, and then literally the next status is you talking, shit about someone, then that's on you. Like, that's not, it's just so crazy. Like, people just can't, I don't know. They just can't
Well,
just.
and that's what I see too, is I see a lot of that hypocrisy. It's that
Yes.
hypocrisy that it's just, oh, I want, and I'm not going to give any specific example, but somebody, whether it be political or religious or whatever, posting something, whether it be Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever, trying to send a message, but then they comment on something else, which kind of basically like spits in the face of the same
Yes.
message, to your point that you were
Yes.
making, like,
Yep.
and I'm not going to say anything specific religion or whatever, but they'll post something. They'll be like, would Jesus approve of you, if that's what you believe in, and you're Catholic or Christian or whatnot, and you're posting something and it has hate-filled speech, like, would your religion be tolerant of that? I thought religion was supposed to like hate the sin, not the sinner, but what you're posting and how you're lashing out tends to be a little bit differently, in my opinion. But again, I and that's what it is. I think it's a lot more self-restraint on our parts to basically be like, don't post, don't lash out,
Yes.
don't strike out with emotion. It's almost like you have to like see it, take it. It's almost like when you're angry and they say to like write a letter to the person you're
Right.
angry with,
Like, don't respond when you're mad,
then
basically.
put it away and don't send it out yet. Send it out the next day, and you find that a lot of your feelings dissipate, because that's what you're seeing a lot of now too, is a lot of people saying stuff.
Yes.
And then it's like, once you put it out there, you can't
It's
take
out
it
there.
back.
Nope.
You can delete it, but people take screenshots.
Oh,
People,
100%.
oh, hey dude. Sorry,
That's my
I'm
dude.
interrupting. I'm
That's my
interrupting
dude.
our talk because the little dude's looking at me with his little bug eyes, like, who is this
He's like,
weirdo
ooh, let
with
me
his
on, let me
sleeveless?
on. Who
Hi,
is that?
buddy.
Say hi.
He's like,
Say
I
hi.
do not know what I am seeing right now. What
He's
is
like,
this
look it.
technology?
He's like, you look just like me. Look at the heads.
Yeah, hey, wait, whoa,
I know.
whoa.
I've said that. I just said that to someone else. It was my future brother-in-law. I'm like, because he has a shaved head. So I'm like, oh, you guys look exactly alike. And he's like, really? Like that? Probably you probably shouldn't have said it like that.
So didn't we just talk about putting things out there that once it's out there, you can't
It's
take
out
it
there,
back?
yeah.
So now
Sorry.
you just basically said that Mason is the spitting image of me. I will say that is not true. As we mentioned, we have never met in person before, so we don't have to go on Maury. We don't have to do anything.
Mason has blonde hair, which
so,
I don't know how
nope.
either, because Chris doesn't either. So.
Well, okay. So now you're just digging yourself into a hole.
Okay, I just
ladies and gentlemen,
foot in mouth.
There are such a thing known as recessive genes. You know, remember doing those? I forget what those squares were in like middle school. Were they called like pundit squares? I can't remember. But basically, you have the dominant and the recessive genes.
Yeah.
And you say, okay, well, like big B, small b, big B, small b. Okay, you have a 25% chance to have two big Bs, which are the dominant, full dominant. Then you have two squares that are big B, little b, which are also dominant, where the recessive gene falls out. But then you also have a 25% chance of, so maybe Mason's just that recessive gene kicking in.
Yeah. He's a blonde hair, blue eyes.
My sister and her husband both have dark hair, and their youngest started out with blonde hair, and it turned into brown as he got older. So
right. It might get darker. I mean, I would love for him to stay blonde, but then people are going to think I kidnapped him. So.
Well, there you go.
Because he doesn't look like.
There was a mix-up at the hospital.
Mix up at the hospital.
I love it. Yeah, but again, we're not going to be posting this video, but I just wanted to, for the people listening to the audio version of this, I just wanted to kind of point out that's what's happening when you heard my tone change.
Yeah, sorry.
Like, social media bullying, but hey, dude, like, hey, guys. So, I love it. Well, once he gets a little bit more talkative, we're gonna have him on.
Definitely. Yeah, he hasn't actually said a peep right now, which is weird. He must not see any. He must not see any ghosts. A little. He made a little noise, but he must not see any ghosts in here right now.
He's doing a little childish babbling.
We don't come in this room very often because this is just the spare room for people sleep over.
This is the official podcast room now.
This is my podcast room.
This is your podcast room. This is your home studio.
Yeah, I like it. This is my beat laboratory, if you will.
Nice. You're in the lab.
Yes.
Like Dr. Dre, you and Dr. Dre collabing.
Yes.
I wanted to, before we kind of wrap up here, I want to just very quickly talk to you. So we didn't really get into the whole motherhood thing. We did talk about the tiredness and whatnot, but
Yeah.
I just want to say to ask you, I guess, to kind of wrap up rather. What do you think has been the biggest misconception you had since you've been a mother for 2 months now? What was something you think was like, I guess, a two-pronged question, something you thought that was gonna be, oh my god, this is gonna be so difficult, and then you realize it's not as difficult as you thought, and then B, what was something that you think was like, oh, I wasn't really prepared for this?
That's a good question. So the first one I guess would be um and I'm actually just learning it now. Basically like his figuring out what he wants, which I don't always know, but you learn cues like when he's pulling on his ear. Okay, I learn now that that means he's tired. You know what I mean? Just like little things like that. Just to learning like if he's touching his ear or his his mouth. He's not always just hungry. So that was it was hard at first, and now, or I thought it was going to be impossible, and it is getting easier. But it's actually, I'm glad you brought that up because I went through. So what I wasn't prepared for was basically the postpartum part of giving birth. So everyone always focuses on getting pregnant, being pregnant, pregnancy, and then labor. And then even in the hospital, as soon as you give birth, they kind of just toss you into like the postpartum area, and you're basically on your own. Which granted, I wasn't on my own. I had Chris, but motherhood after you give birth is the hardest thing I've ever gone through. I It was just with all your hormones and emotions all over the place. I cried a lot, and there was a lot of nights like I was like, "Oh, I can't do this. How am I going to do this?" Like, and I literally would cry all the time, and Chris would just be like, and I'm like, just let me cry, like just let me cry. But I don't think enough people talk about it. And it's a normal feeling, and I can say that now because 2 months later, I'm finally starting to like kind of like my emotions and hormones are kind of leveling out, so I'm not, I haven't cried in a while. But that was honestly the hardest part, and being up with him at night. um Nighttime was the worst, getting up with him in the middle of the night and just sitting on the couch. Like I was so lonely and I wasn't alone. Um so that part I was not prepared for, and that was the hardest part.
So now, in your opinion, do you think that there should be more? I mean, I'm assuming you guys went through. No, I'm going to totally fudge this up, but you guys went through like a childbirthing class or whatnot.
No, we didn't.
No.
I didn't. No, because
Okay.
I've been around. I have like three younger siblings. You know what I mean? So I didn't. I
Okay.
watched. I watched some. I think Pampers had like a free one online that I watched. But it's basically just like right up till birth, and then it kind of tells you how to like give him a bath afterwards, and like how to swaddle him, stuff like that.
Right. No, I guess I was more concerned or curious about, since I haven't like had to, I haven't been uh I've never gotten anyone pregnant, I guess. That's such a weird way to say it. But I've never
In
been with anyone.
Right.
I've never had a child. So to me, my theory or my question, I guess, would be more along the lines of, when you're talking about postpartum and whatnot, I wonder
Mhm.
if there's any resources out there while you're pregnant to help you cope with it postpartum. You know what I mean? Like,
There probably is. I didn't really look into it. I kept in mind that I was very aware of it because I've dealt with like depression and anxiety before, years ago. So I was very aware of it, which I think was like the first step for me. But it's so, and kind of like the message I always tell people, because someone would ask me like, how are you doing, and I would just be honest, and I was like, honestly, like I'm sad. I was just sad all the time, and then I felt worse because I'm like, I have this beautiful baby, I should be so happy. And I was happy, but I was sad at the same time. And there probably is, programs or stuff out there, but you don't think about it until you're in it and it's happening. And like, all my friends and family were great, and they were checking up on me, and I couldn't have done it without them. But it's postpartum is a real thing, and I think that if you're feeling that, or if someone's feeling that, like you can really just be there for them. You know what I mean? But I'm sure there's programs and stuff out there. I just didn't. I was aware of it, and I knew if it wasn't going to get better, I would go talk to someone, a therapist or something. But like I said, thankfully for me, it's starting to get better. But
and that's super, it's super, super interesting. I just think that it's not, to your point, it's probably not talked about enough, or it is type of a real thing, and I make it a point to say, as I continue to learn and grow as a human being, I can never comment on what it's like to be gay. I can never comment on what it's like to be, a
Right.
minority, or somebody from another country, or that an immigrant, or I can never say what it's like to be a woman, because I'm never going to go through those experiences. So to me, where I'm kind of, you know, totally unprepared and totally uneducated on this subject, I just, I just, it's very interesting to me, and I think that it's kind of such a good thing to bring more, put more of a spotlight on it. But yeah, I just,
Well, that's what I say too. I'm always like, they don't, because like I said, even in the hospital, I won't say what hospital I was at, but the labor and delivery part, like from the second I got there until I gave birth, was amazing. My nurses were amazing. Then they literally bring you into this room with your child and you're basically on your own. And that's really how it is in real life too. They're just kind of like, here you go out into the world with this little human and you guys don't know each other. And he's going to, cry his little head off. And you have to basically guess at what he needs and what he wants. Um, and they don't tell you about like how you're going to feel and like emotionally. And I definitely was not prepared for that part of it. And I don't think it's talked about enough, or maybe it is. And I just don't hear I don't hear about it. Like I said, it's always the pregnancy, the labor and delivery. But I definitely think that, you have to take care of yourself afterwards too. And it's a lot harder than, it's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, to be honest.
well, not that I want to be like on this special episode,
Right.
but
Yeah.
I will point out, I was looking it up while we were talking. There is a website, postpartum.net, where you can
Mm-hmm.
go for some resources. There's also where you can text or call their helpline. So for anybody
Oh,
that is
awesome.
listening to that or is
Yeah,
dealing with that, I'll put that in the show notes, just because I think that's important. I think
it is. And it's, like I said, it's important to me too. Like I have a lot of friends that have had kids and, I would cry to that, I would be like, well, why am I feeling like this? And they're like, it's normal. It's normal. It doesn't make you feel better. But it is normal. And it's just, there's no really nothing, like nothing really makes you feel better about it. But being able to talk to someone helped me a lot.
Well, and
So
that's the thing. I think, and not to trivialize or minimize the effect of postpartum depression, but also just mental health in general.
absolutely. It's
I feel like there's still such a stigma
stigma around it. Yes, I
around,
agree.
like,
100%.
people say, everybody does physical stuff for their health, but you know what? Sometimes mental health is still health too.
100%. 100%. Especially going through just anything. But mental health is so important because it can turn, it can go downhill real quick, even with the happiest of moments.
And
So
I
it's
and I hate saying
definitely
it, but mental health is not as identifiable when you're in a
no,
bad mental state, as opposed to like
no,
physical. So if you see somebody, with a bruise or a black eye, or
right,
a cut,
or
hey,
broken arm or
yeah,
something.
arm in a cast, that's
Yeah.
probably a better, or walking on crutches, you like, oh, something's ailing them physically. You can't really
Yes.
see that all the time
No.
with the things of the mind. So see, even Mason is agreeing with me right now,
He is.
because I can hear him.
He's like,
But
I
yeah,
agree. Take care of yourselves
yeah, take care of yourself. And
mentally.
Mason, take care of your mom too, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I know, I love it. I love having you on. I love you being back on
Thank you for
again.
having me. Me too.
Thanks.
Me too.
Thanks. I'm gonna title this one probably Casey Tremblay with a special appearance by Mason. Obviously,
Right.
we won't have any video because obviously I'm going to respect the privacy that you have. But we will. If I do put this up on YouTube, I might put the whole thing up just with the logo, our
Yeah,
logo
that's
in the
fine.
background.
Or you can just crop the parts with his face out. Like I said,
No, 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 no. We'll do.
I put myself out there. And like I said, I do post him on my personal Instagram and my personal Facebook page for family that can't see him every day. But
Right.
yeah, I don't want him out there on the internet.
Yeah. No, and I totally get that, and I respect that. So we
Thank
won't
you.
we won't plug too much as far as your social media stuff, but whatever you would like to plug, maybe a Twitch if you ever get back into streaming.
I do,
Wink,
but you're gonna kill me
wink.
because I don't know. I think it's at X, Miss Black Mamba X with no spaces.
Okay, so
You always do it for me, that, and I think that's the same as my Twitter. I'm
Okay.
so bad. See, I just I'm bad. Mom brain.
Well,
Hashtag mom brain.
here's the thing. So you do that. I always have mush mouth when I try to read your name out because I mispronounce. Let me go. So luckily this is not going to be on the video. I'm going on my phone right now, and I'm going to see who I'm following. So yeah, so follow her on Twitter and Twitch at Ms. Black Mamba. I don't think there's an X at the end of that on
Oh,
Twitch.
maybe not. I think that was my old gamer tag from 20 years ago.
Yeah, Twitch is XMSBLACKMAMBA. And your Twitter, if we want to do Twitter.
Twit. Do you twat a lot?
This is a PG show.
I say that stupid stuff about Twitter all the time.
Twitting and tweeting. You don't have an X at the end of this one either.
Oh, okay. See?
So it's Ms. Black Mamba on Twitter as well.
I think my very first, because this is my second Black Mamba gamer tag. P.S. It's from Kill Bill, which I actually watched last night, and I tried to video record a thing to send to you, like, oh look, Mamba. That's where Mamba came from. But I had to make a new one because I had my original Xbox Live account for so long, and then I could not get back into it, so I had to make a new one. But the first one had an X at the end, so.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I always want to revert back.
Show notes as well. But thank you again, Casey.
Thank you
and
for
Mason
having me.
For being on
Yay.
the show.
Thank
now, I don't know if you remember.
Us.
Hey, anytime, you're always welcome back. But now is the other part. You have mom brain. I'm so glad, and I'll say this before we wrap up. I'm so glad that you're doing well. You're kind of coming out of the postpartum thing. You're feeling better. You're feeling healthier. That's phenomenal. I'm super happy for you.
Thank you.
But now on the mom brain side, do you remember how we end the podcast?
I knew. I literally, as soon as you said, now I'm going to, and I knew where you were going, and I don't remember. Okay. I remember I think I remember I actually don't even know if I remember the Free Your Geek one.
Well, you don't have. Well, that's.
I do. I know it is a different show. I remember.
I know you're remembering that, but we don't need that for this show.
I know. I don't remember.
This show, we wrap up where you basically say your name, and then you say, "I am Casey Tremblay," and so I'll set it up for you. How about this?
Okay.
What you're gonna say is, I'm Casey Tremblay, and this is Mason, and this has been our aimless conversation.
Okay, so
wait.
Wait.
Oh, you just don't go right into it as soon as you say.
Come on.
Okay, practice it a couple of times.
Right now?
Yeah, out loud. Practice it a couple of times.
Okay. So my name's Casey Tremblay, and this is Mason, and this has been our aimless conversation. With Jeff? Do I say with Jeff?
Nope, you don't have to say with me.
No, with Jeff.
They know who I am.
They know who you are.
My childhood face is on the image of the logo of the podcast. They know who's there. It even says my name on the podcast.
Okay.
But yeah, so okay, that was what we call a test run.
Okay.
That was a dry run, if you will.
Dry run. Okay.
That's good. If the next one sucks, then whatever.
Use that one.
You already know you did it right the first time. But
right.
I'll just again thank you for being on the show. Casey, I love you. And why don't you just lead us out?
Thank you for having me. And my name is Casey Tremblay. This is Mason. And this has been our aimless conversation.